So, Tim, you're here with us from Hideaway Distillery.
The magical place.
The magical place. I've driven out for work. I've been going in through over to Sweet Home, and I look over and I say, "Hey, what's that place over there?" And finally, I looked you guys up and said, "It's Hideaway Distillery." It's Oregon's really known for breweries, and they're really known as wine country.
Mm-hmm.
Not as well known for distilleries. So you guys are kind of a mystery to me.
We're a mysterious bunch, for sure.
Oh, perfect.
So there's a lot I can't tell you, obviously. But no, it's great. We get a lot of people like you that drive by. I mean, we've been open. Well, we actually opened our doors on August 16th of 2021, and we do events, that kind of thing. So last year we were at this big, huge barbecue cook-off down Sweet Home. It was a big deal. 38 crews come from all over the West to do it. And so many locals from Sweet Home and the Lebanon area, they would be like, "Are you guys open?" I was like, "Yeah, there's a big flag outside that says we're open." Well, we didn't know if you were like open,
or just like we sell it.
It looks like an Old West saloon.
It kind of
anybody hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, that or a feed store.
Take your pick.
They're kind of all one and the same back in the day, right?
Pretty much, yeah. You could get both at the feed store, go around back, but no. So yeah, so we get a lot of walk-in traffic like that. A lot of local folks, a lot of people too. So we did. So for a while we were doing some I don't know. There's a name for it, I'm sure, but to be able to focus advertising. So we did some of that through
Like targeted.
Yeah, targeted.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word. That's the word the guy used. Here, I'll just tear apart your equipment. Anyway, so down in Southern Oregon, and all the way from pretty much Linn County all the way down to the California border, and we had people actually coming up, making a day trip to come up all the way from like Medford, places like that down there, because they saw us on TV, and most of those people were older than I am. I'm 63. They're probably at least 7 years older, maybe more than me. A lot of them, and they would watch it on. I think it's called MeTV, and they were watching like these. Westerns, old from the Wagon Train, all these other kind of old, the Wyatt Earp, those Western, black and white Westerns.
Yeah.
And that was one of our targets, was people from that demographic.
Yeah.
Because they like to drink. They like a nice, good whiskey. So we had a lot of those kind of folks that would come by and visit us. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But we are known in every state in the country. We have had cops in Europe call us. Ireland. Dave actually has a buddy now. He's a cop in Sweden. I got a cop and his wife in Belgium. Him and I, we always correspond back and forth with each other. Usually it's on WhatsApp or whatever. But yeah, so Great Britain, Ireland, Belgium, Holland, Austria, Germany, and then Australia. I think I'm missing a couple in Europe. But anyway, Australia, New Zealand. And
you getting patches too?
Indonesia. Oh, we got a heck of a patch wall going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because, we got the red line because our hose dragger friends, firemen, we pick on each other a lot. It's fun.
I noticed you give them they're not quite as up to proof as you guys are.
Oh, we didn't figure they could handle the heavy duty cop stuff. As it turns out, the joke is on us because that 80 proof is pretty easy to drink.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty good stuff. But yeah, so we get patches, guys and their wives, or, we get patches from all over the United States. So we've got several from Europe now. And so we started our own little spot for the European ones. And then we have a wall for the fire guys. They need to step up their game because I think they only got maybe 12 patches up there. But yeah, so anybody that's out there, working for the fire service, hey, kick it up a notch.
So the middle one is what you started with, right?
It's the blue line. The blue line and the Hideaway that we started with, yeah. So we distill everything grain to bottle for our Hideaway. And then our latest, the guy that does our market research for us, I've known him for probably 25 years, real squared away guy, self-made man, multi-millionaire, multi-businesses now. I wish he would have hired me, when I retired. But anyway, I didn't ask. But anyway, so his latest numbers were over 8 million in the United States potential customers. And back when we first did it, I think his first one he did for us was in 2017, and then it was like 6.2 million. And the word's been getting out. But so with that in mind, the equipment that we have, and I think you saw it when Dave took you on a tour, right? Mm-hmm. And So we didn't think that our equipment was quite big enough to slack the thirst of that many potential customers, around the country. So found an outfit in St. Louis, and this R grain bill that so it's soft white wheat, and I'm sorry, that's the Hideaway. No, so it's 21% rye. So it's not a rye whiskey, but it's a high rye, which gives it that traditional bourbon peppery note. Mm-hmm. And so if we get ready for it, they ship it out to us in 264 gallons at a time.
Wow.
And it's just white whiskey. So this latest one we got, it was 135.6 proof. And
136.
So white whiskey would be like moonshine, basically.
Well, yes and no, because moonshine is not refined at all. Maybe a little bit, but it's it's just a high proof, high rye whiskey. And then, so the thing that separates us or makes us different is the oak that we use. So we have a couple of different techniques. So let's talk about the red line and the Hideaway, or the red line and the blue line, because they're both the same grain bill. So, but just the blue or the Hideaway is proof down to 80 instead of 90, like the blue line. But so we get it in. As soon as we get it in, we pump it out of the 264-gallon IBC tote, and we put it into our big stainless steel tanks. And then it's a different technique, but we're aging it, not technically, but we're aging it from the inside out, because so the farm I grew up at in Tangent, my family's been there since 1908, and we got a lot of oak trees. And every once in a while, an oak tree gets sick, or you get an ice storm and it falls over. So we had one go down about 12 years ago now, and it was pretty good size. I mean, I think we got to, we had at least 60 feet. It was a big one, and pretty straight. So I used my dad's big Ford 5500 tractor. We had to drag it up out of the Lake Creek, which borders our property. And anyway, so Dave and I, and then we bucked it up. We hauled it over to a friend of mine, and he milled it for us into 1-inch planks. And then so we have a pretty heavy-duty bandsaw, so we rip it into 1x2s, and then we screw these 1x2s together, and we make a kind of a cross kind of thing, an X, and then so you got these. They're basically oak staves, not like the kind of staves that are on a barrel, but they're just straight. And then so we get about 8 on each side, and then of course the pieces across the top and the bottom to hold them all together. And then so we hang those up, and then we we use stainless steel screws to screw them all together, of course, and then hang them up, and then we use a weed-burning propane torch, and we char them to like a number 3 char, is what the industry standard is, so an alligator char. If you've ever been camping and your fire wasn't quite out, but it rained, and then you go out the next morning, and
it's like that rough.
Yeah. So that helps it makes it absorbent for the whiskey to come in.
That's all the charcoal in there. That's kind of mellowing it out a little bit. Is that what it does?
It does. And so so what happens is, so the whiskey goes in and the whiskey comes out. When it comes out, it leaves impurities in there. But when it comes out, it also picks up the good stuff, the vanillins from the oak. And so we leave that stuff in the can. It just depends. Sometimes, like the first use on one of those oak stave deals that we use, they're about 3 feet tall. The cans are a lot taller than that, but we don't fill the cans all the way up with the whiskey because we had to have room in the cans to proof them down. Big stainless steel tanks, 160 gallons. So they, without getting too detailed on this, because I can really get into the weeds on this stuff, trust me. But so we rinse it off, let it dry out for a little bit, and we throw it in that high proof whiskey, and then it takes about 3-4 months for it to pick up enough color, enough flavor, and then from there we transfer it into the oak barrels. And so we get our barrels. So there's 2 kinds of bourbon, straight bourbon.
So you're actually throwing like chunks of wood in.
They're actually screwed together, and so that gives us a huge amount of surface area.
Okay, so not just like floating at the top; it's going straight down, and it's controlled.
Yes, and so it's so that gives it a lot of surface area for that to do its work. Because we did that to start with. We just took oak planks, basically, bored some holes through them with a hole saw, and then put them in there. And then the guy from Rewind Barrels gave us the idea on doing the oak staves, and that works out quicker, so much better, and way more efficient.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that the color doesn't come from like the wheat or the barley.
It's white whiskey when it comes out.
Yeah,
clear.
So it's coming from the wood.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yep, for sure. Okay. Yeah, you don't get anything from and that. If you put white whiskey in there, white whiskey, new make, just plain old, even if it was just 90 proof down with water, it could sit in that bottle for 150 years and never age a day. So that's why you got to have wood in it. And you could put a little oak chunk in there, and over the time, it would still pick up some of the stuff from the oak. never really quits.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Learn something
So
new
all
every
the
day.
flavors you get, it all depends on the wood too, right?
It depends on the wood and then the water. So the water that we use comes from my well. I live about 3.5 miles up above Sodaville, about 1.5 miles above a little town called Sodaville. And I don't have any iron in my water. And that is the Achilles heel of distillers, wineries, breweries, is either they're on a well and it's got a lot of iron in it, or they're on city water and they have to use a reverse osmosis to get all that other crud out of there that when they...
That's why all the beer companies advertise like it's coming out of a glacier or something.
Yeah, what was it? One of those old beer companies. It's the water and a lot more, that kind of thing. Yeah, so, but no, I just pump it into a 275-gallon IBC tote and on a flatbed trailer and bring it down, and we pump it in. We put 90 gallons of water right away into our mash tun, and then the rest of it goes into another tank we got there. So
you're using Oregon wood and Oregon water.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. And makes a huge, huge difference. The water we use in every step of the process, except for cleaning the equipment, and I got great water. It's just not a lot of it. My well's only 2.5 gallons a minute, so it takes about 90 minutes to fill up that 275
It takes a
gallons.
bit.
Yeah, it takes a bit. So when we go bigger, I'll have to have 2 of those tanks, and I'll just be calling Dave and tell, hey man, I'm going to be. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a vet.
So how'd you guys get into this? I mean, you guys, all of you guys that are involved with this come from a law enforcement background.
We do, yeah. So but for every distiller out there, there's an outlaw element in their background, and so funny story is, I'll make it quick. I'll try, but so I ran across a circuit court judge and a guy who's now a judge. He was a deputy district attorney for Linn County at the time. Anyway, it was at a restaurant down in Albany. Anyway, so they spotted me and they go, speak of the devil. I'm like, what are you two talking about? I've known these guys forever. The judge, I remember when he was a defense lawyer, and a great guy. And anyway, so I said, you talk about me? And oh, yeah, well, we had a guy down there. He was he was a state legislator and he was going to move to Arizona and he was ready to retire. And they were thinking about me as well. Sorry, I'm not in the district, so, and I'd retired by then. I didn't want to be a, elected official anymore. It was fine. And so, the DA guy, he was telling the judge, about what my current venture was I was working on. And he, of course, that guy, he knew me the judge knew me for a long time. And he's like, looks up at me and goes, I always suspected there was a criminal element in it. Thank you, Your Honor. But anyway, so it was pretty funny. But
That's funny.
So how it all started was when I was a kid. I was not 14 years old. So my dad's farm and my grandpa's farm, they bordered each other. They were all part of the same farm at one point. And so we were over there. We were the closest people, the closest relatives. So we went over. We do chores, and help him out. And he was in his mid-70s then. And so we were over there, and he broke out these pictures at the Pendleton Roundup. His brother Max, he cowboyed over in Northeast Oregon. And so he sent him all these pictures from the 1920s. And I tell you, if I knew where those pictures were, I could make a fortune, because the Pendleton Roundup Association would love to have those original photographs. And a lot of them, too, they were the postcards, So Max would write on the back of there, is my grandpa's brother, who the cowboys were. And anyway, so I'm going through these pictures, and I'm handing them to him. And then one of these pictures, well, it was 2 guys, and they did not look happy. They were looking at the camera, had their slouch hats on, their bib overalls, and there was another guy behind him, white hair, looking the other direction. Well, that guy was my great-grandpa Mueller, who's an immigrant from Switzerland. And the guy on the right, next to him, that was my grandpa Mueller, Paul. And the other guy was his brother, Uncle Pete. And behind them, so nothing had really changed on the farm all those decades. So behind them was the cellar house and the smokehouse. And between them, there was a little breezeway there. And it appeared that they were probably operating on what appeared to be like a 40-gallon whiskey still. And I'm like, Grandpa, what are you doing in this picture? He looks at it. Very matter of fact, typical old farmer. Oh, we were making whiskey. I go, well, wasn't that illegal? He goes, well, you're damn right it was illegal. It was during Prohibition. And during the Depression, though, we can make more on a gallon of whiskey than we could a bushel of corn.
Wow.
And so my great-grandpa, he liked making wine. So they had a grape arbor down in the timber along the Calapia River down there. And
so you hear about like the Prohibition stuff. All the movies talk about like, Tennessee, like running stuff up to like Chicago.
Right.
That was, you don't hear about Oregon having the same type of history.
Linn County is known for it. So if you go, if you're heading, like, where the point is down in Sweet Home?
Yeah.
So like you're heading to the point, you take a right down there. When you get down in the dip, before you get into the Foster, it says Whiskey Butte. Well, there's a reason why it's called Whiskey Butte, because there was multiple moonshine stills up there back in the day.
Up in the hills.
Yep. Matter of fact, not even during Prohibition. So my old boss, Art Martinack, he was county sheriff for a while, 2 sheriffs before me.
Yeah.
And so he came by one time and was telling me the story about how him and it was a detective, went up there and they were sitting on this moonshine still. And there was these 2 guys that had worked for Teledyne Wah Chang. And so when they fired up the still, well, that's when you can get them. So they went down there and it was just these 2 guys. They were just a couple of good old boys, and older guys. And one of the tanks they were using, it was marked Teledyne Wah Chang. Well, they were known for having like some pretty caustic stuff. So he's like, I don't know if I'd be wanting to drink anything that they were making out of that. But
because they have to operate on like a spring, right, or like some sort of like water source.
Oh yeah, you got to have water. Yeah.
So that's why they'd be up in the hills or up the mountains.
That and you don't want to get found out.
Yeah.
So
Good hiding spot.
But I bugged my dad for several, because this really intrigued me. Oh, and I asked my grandpa, I said, well, who took the picture? And well, my grandma Mary, and not a lot of love lost there, because at the end of World War II, she left him for a returning serviceman, who turned out to be a really good guy. But Mary, she's running with that damn Kodak Brownie, taking pictures of everything. Then she's fool enough to get it developed. We all could have wound up in jail, but they didn't, fortunately. But it intrigued me. So I bugged my dad about it for a few days. Again, I was 14, and I was kind of a nerd. And I think back then they called them geeks. I'm not sure, but on the farm. But anyway, he says, I don't know anything about it. Go talk to Cousin Bill. Well, that was Pete's son. He just lived one farm over, so I walked over to his place. And he's a gruff guy. He's a lineman for the power company, about my height, bald as an egg, big handlebar mustache, barrel-chested guy. You didn't want to tick him off. Anyway, I go, hey, Bill, I says, what do you know about making whiskey? Like, why do you want to know? And I'm like, well, we were over at Grandpa's the other day. He rolled out some pictures. He immediately changed his whole demeanor. Said, oh, you saw that picture? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, what do you want to know? And I says, I don't know anything about it. So we walk back to one of his outbuildings, and he opens it up, and here he's got probably a 30-gallon copper still that he built.
Wow.
He goes, what do you want to know?
Step on in.
Oh, yeah. And I says, teach me. So he sent me back over to my grandpa's, who was the next farm over.
Yeah.
And Grandpa had a dairy at one point. So he had these old stainless steel 6-gallon milk cans. And he said, talk your grandpa out one of those. He's got a bunch of them over there he'll never use again. So, of course, I did, but he gave me the worst one. I'm like, Grandpa, you're not going to have a dairy again. You're 75. But anyway, so I got that one. And then Bill and I built my first still.
At 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
I still have it.
That's awesome.
It's I got to get it cleaned up and put it on that drop ceiling out there one of these days. But anyway, so he told me to have my dad take me up to Sanex. There was a farm store there on old Highway 34 or 99 at the time, and pick up some Pig Maker. So Pig Maker it was a Sanex brand. It had rolled corn, rolled wheat, rolled oats, and molasses. Anyway, so
we're always telling our kids, get off your phone, go make some corn liquor or something.
That's right.
Just go out there, start making some whiskey. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Kids these days.
Kids these days. So so I didn't have a clue what it should taste like, but Bill said it was pretty good, and my dad and my uncles and my older cousins,
They're all
some of my
impressed, and
younger,
you're like, wow.
well, the price was right, so anyway, and then I did that a few times, and then put it away. Wound up in the Army. I was over in Germany, and we had some new guy show up from Georgia, and he was bragging about his uncle making this stuff. That's not that hard. Well, my buddies called me a liar, and I'm like, okay. So I'd been out shopping for some stuff to send to my folks, and I was a military policeman in the Army, by the way. So I'd found it's like a 2-gallon copper milk can. It was on one of what we called On the Economy out in Germany, and so. Went over, bought it, went to a hardware store, got all. It was actually the copper coil for a ice maker in a refrigerator. Uh-huh. Got that, the fittings, and went down to Ramstein Air Force Base. That's the closest place. Anyway, they had a PX down there. BX Air Force called it Base Exchange. But anyway, so bought a little propane stove and run off those 1-pound canisters, and that's what I got in trouble for. But I'm not supposed to have flame-producing items in the barracks. Anyway. Oh. Yeah, I already knew that, but yeah, I did it anyway. So anyway, put all that stuff together, and then told my buddies to start saving their peaches and their apples from the chow hall. And one of my friends, you step out of the room, the second floor in the barracks, you step out of his room, you step on the roof of the flat roof of the supply room. So it's a perfect place. It was summer. Summer in Germany lasted about 2 months back then. Maybe it's changed now. I don't know, but. Anyway, so great place with a 5-gallon bucket to do my little brandy wash is what it was, and just went down to the commissary, got some yeast, and made it. I had to run it through twice because it was first is not great, but So, but I got about 2.5, maybe shot glasses out of it. But it was enough to prove to them that I wasn't full of crap.
Yeah.
Huh.
So fast forward to 2017 when I roll out, hey guys, this is what I'm doing, because I have a pretty good one of my company, 164th Military Police Company. There's a lot of us from the same time frame there that are on that. And so a couple of the guys that were there back in the early 80s, but man, I hope that's as good as the stuff that you made in Miso. I'm like, I wouldn't run that crap through my tractor compared to what we're making now. So anyway, and I just always had it back in my mind that maybe someday, you know, and then I'd tease my wife. I'd say, yeah, I retired from the sheriff's office. I'd buy me a 48 Ford Business Coupe and run moonshine like old Robert Mitchum in Thunder Road. And then I had a friend of mine had an acquaintance that he was thinking, because they loosened up the regulations in Oregon when the feds loosened up the regulations on craft spirits, craft distilleries. And so he wanted to have me, because I had a little bit of background in it, maybe get a distillery started. And, I thought the guy was a little bit sketchy. So I'm like, man, I don't think so. So I got to thinking about it. I'm like, well, why would I do it for somebody else when I can do it myself? Yeah. So I looked into it, and there was a lot of hoops to jump through federally. Yeah. The state was awesome. I tell these guys at OLCC that, my career, 30 years at sheriff's office, 8.5 years sheriff, I've worked with every state agency, and they're the only ones that I've ever found were actually super. I said, you guys must not have got the memo. I'm like, what memo? I'm like, that you're supposed to be difficult jackasses to work with, because you guys have been phenomenal. Every person I've talked to from the OLCC has been nothing but helpful. They're awesome.
I was always wondering what comes first, the liquor or the license? Is it
the
license?
Liquor or the license?
You got to start somewhere.
Technically the license.
Technically, legally the license, but you're not supposed to make anything. It's not. You can't make it for personal consumption.
Because there's not a lot of distilleries around. So I know
77 in Oregon, I think. Something like that.
I know there's a lot more hoops for you guys to jump through as far as this is what proof you guys can do and you can't do, and here's how. Because you're making some super flammable. This isn't like...
Well, and it could kill you.
Yeah.
If you do it wrong. So like your first, like with our little 53-gallon still, our spirit still, we got the big 100-gallon still, that's our stripping still. But so your first 2 quarts are 4 shots, which are super high methanol. And so like when the pandemic first started, there wasn't enough hand sanitizer. So they were shipping it up from Mexico. Well, they don't really have the same kind of FDA like we do here. Yeah. And so people were washing their hands with this stuff, and it was making them sick because it was a super high methanol content in that stuff. So the Alcohol Tobacco Taxation Bureau, the TTB, who's our federal licensing outfit, well, they loosened up the restrictions. So if you wanted to make that, then you could, as long as you just gave it away. So, we had some that we just had on hand, some heads, super high proof, but nothing you really want to drink. You proof it down, but you'd probably wake up with a pretty good headache the next morning.
Is that the stuff that, they talk about, like the moonshiners, like make you go blind if you...
That would be 4 shots.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's bad stuff. Yeah, that's really bad stuff. But the heads, some distillers, what they'll do is they'll save that, and then the tails, and then they'll blend those together, which is called... I don't know what drunken Irishman came up with all these names. It's called feints. So F-I-E-N-T-S. And then, so they'll mix those together. They'll be pretty high proof. So then
we say heads and tails.
Heads and tails. And then they proof that down with water to 70 proof-ish. So then that way they don't potentially have like a 100-gallon bomb, when they're still full of some high-proof whiskey. And then they'll put, like, you saw the still, the spirit still had all the copper on it, so that it's 3 sections on it. Now, anything more than that, you might start losing flavor. You don't want to do that with making bourbon. And so there's 3 other sections that you would add, and plus what's called a gin basket, which is depending on the size of your process. So like ours is 2 feet long, and then you would pack that with copper mesh, and that strips any of the remaining flavor out of there. So you're basically, what you've made is a grain neutral spirit that they can use for making vodka and gin with. Oh, okay. But you know what? There's lots of vodkas, there's lots of gins, and we're just going to stay in our lane and just keep making good, unapologetic American whiskey.
Nice.
Works out for us.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. There was a question there. I'm not sure if I answered
it. All the regulations you guys have to go through. It's more than, as far as beer. It's probably more. It's probably like beer and then wine, and then you guys probably have a lot more paperwork to do.
So every Monday I send my Monday report to the OLCC. Again, awesome people up there. If I'm late or whatever for a day or something, they're very forgiving. Usually I'm not. I'm pretty Johnny on the spot, but very helpful. And then even like good example, like on Veterans Day, Four Spirits down at Corvallis. Shameless plug for them. They're awesome. Dawson Officer.
I've seen them. I've seen them over in Corvallis. So.
Yeah. You ever get a chance to stop in there? They're great people. Got a good place to eat too there. So, but anyway, so they do their annual Corvallis Spirits Fest. All the money goes to Four Spirits. They have a nonprofit for wounded veterans and helping them out. So great outfit. So we have to file an offsite permit for that. So again, super nice people, easy to work with, and just like sometimes. Not Four Spirits, but we've had them where the kind of a last minute thing. I know it's only been, you're supposed to have it 2 weeks. It's only going to be 6 days. Well, just remind them next year to get it to you sooner, kind of thing. So again, great people to work for.
So you're able to talk with a lot of the other distillers around here, and
some, yeah. So when I first started thinking about it, I went up to Portland, hit some of the distilleries up there. Again, once they found out that's what I was thinking about doing, they were just super nice and they. Very helpful. Yeah. And that's the thing that we have discovered about the distillery industry. I mean, everybody we've ever talked to, you got a question, you pick up the phone, they're more than willing to help you out. So, good example, when we were first started doing, we were going to do it old school way, use malted barley, like they did back in the day. And malted barley, unfortunately, has a penchant of getting contracting serious bacterial infections. And there was one of these runs that are mashing rather, that it went bad with that. And you've been there, you've seen it's a little bit of a ways off of Highway 20 to drive in there, but you turn off on Crowfoot, I could smell it. It stunk so bad. Huh. My wife's dad, when he was still alive, he'd raised hogs, and she swore I'd been, in a hog farm. Like, go straight to the shower. Anyway, so we ran it anyway, which is total failure. But so I called a buddy of mine back in Missouri, and I said, "Hey, man," I says, "Gosh, we're having trouble with these, with malted barley." And he goes, "Dude, you're not stupid, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sometimes. Why?" And he goes, "We use enzymes now." No, that's like, this isn't 1920, No, we use enzymes. They work a lot better. They're more efficient, and you don't have you run the risk. You put 153 pounds of grain in there. That's, that adds up as far as money, because it don't come cheap. And anyway, so the guy that actually built our equipment out of Missouri, he actually sells the enzymes. So called him, he shipped them out. Oh man, it was just like night and day difference, and works out great. But
so how'd you guys come up with the blue line and the? I mean, obviously you guys come from the law enforcement background. It was just natural just to pick that out as far as the name goes.
Oh, for sure. And the of course, before we'd even open, there was all kinds of, law enforcement was under a huge microscope at that time, Sure. So we sold our first bottle of whiskey in 21. And so, early on, I knew, even when my first two business partners, I knew that was going to be the label. Yeah. And then they said, well, we might do a limited run of that. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyway.
The media is just kind of like, they focus in on you when you guys, came out or anything, or
no.
No one's trying to
they didn't
gun
give us
for you?
No, well, we did get attacked on social media.
Oh, really?
You did?
Bit. Oh, yeah. Yeah, threatening stuff, too. So it's kind of like, okay.
Wow.
Over whiskey?
Over the blue line.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I was off that day, and Dave had a phone call from it was a Houston area code, but it started off as, is this Hideaway Distillery where they make that racist blue line whiskey, and it pretty much went south from there.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Anyway, so, I'm going to hand it to her. She was very diligent. She reported us 3 times to OLCC, and so they're
like, is this Tim's whiskey? What the
they
heck's
go,
going on?
yeah, well, so Gary Wellborn.
That a serious thing is a bad press or anything like that. It's just kind of maybe people just buy 2 bottles instead.
Exactly. Yeah. And
well, sure.
That wasn't really our demographic anyway, and I didn't really care.
No love lost there.
Not a bit. Anyway, but she made up all kinds of stuff that Dave said. Dave says, I was on the phone for her like 30 seconds, but before I, used the FO and hung up on her. But anyway, so that's really, other than that, and then just because I posted something about the blue line on my Facebook page, and well, it was public, and then so somebody in the Portland area shared it with Antifa, and oh yeah, it was pretty interesting there. So, but then again,
if they're going to break the bottles, they got to buy it first. So.
exactly. Right? I just don't. I'm not a cop anymore, so I don't have to play by the same rules.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Dave and I and Andy, either one. But Landy still does. He still works. He's a sergeant at the sheriff's office. Poor guy. But no, so yeah, so I came up with a Hideaway or the Blue Line early on, and then kind of messed around with some labels and stuff. And then guy, he's not around anymore, but he did the Blue Line and the Hideaway label for us, and then. He left, couldn't get a hold of him ever again after that. I'm not sure what happened to him. But so then a local gal who actually was on the dance team in Lebanon with my daughter, Paige McGuire. So she did the Red Line label for us, and she did a great job on that. And I told her I wanted it very similar to the Blue Line. But yeah, so.
I like the labels because it's like if you know someone who's like a first responder or something, it's quality enough where you can give it to them as a gift. It's not just like here's Blue Line, here's something, and it's a kind of cool shiny label, and the bottle shape itself is different from other ones I've seen.
Like Pendleton whiskey.
Yeah.
So that is so famous now that bottle, that shape's got it's like this, but it's got rounded shoulders on it. That's actually called an Oregon bottle.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and just, fun fact, Pendleton whiskey isn't made in Pendleton. It's made in Alberta, Canada.
What?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Wow. My aunt and uncle are ranchers over in Central Oregon, and obviously they're fans of Pendleton whiskey. It's got the letter buck, the cowboy throwing the buck and horse on there. But anyway, she was devastated when I told her that.
Canadian whiskey.
Has that always been made in Canada?
Oh, yeah.
No way.
Well, what they did was they went through the Pendleton Roundup Association. They got licensed the letter buck, the logo and everything. I'm not a huge fan of Pendleton, but I mean they do make like 1908 stuff. There's some pretty that's some.
It's like a blend, because like
it's Canadian
Crown
blend of whiskey.
Royal is like a blend of like.
It's a Canadian blend of whiskey, but I mean it isn't horrible. I'm not gonna say anything bad about them. I just like mine a lot better.
He just likes sharing that fun fact.
Exactly.
Ours uses Oregon water and wood. And,
right. Yeah. I just hate to
locally sourced.
Yeah, locally sourced.
So how big do you guys want to get with this? I mean, do you hope this, your kids eventually take this over, or what's the deal?
At some point, somebody's going to have to take it over. Man, I mean, Dave's not getting any younger, neither am I. But no, we're just going to keep plugging along. And it's always been kind of in the back of our mind, well, maybe we'll get noticed and somebody will want to buy us out or something someday, but by then it'll probably be too old to enjoy the money. It'd be like giving nuts to a squirrel, lost all of his teeth, but so I don't know. We'll see. But, we make enough we're not getting rich on it at all.
Yeah.
So like with a 39 for the Blue Line, for example, so 90 proof, so $39 is what you would pay for that at a liquor store or at the distillery. So right off the top, for every bottle, state of Oregon that we take to the distribution center, the state takes $18.86. And then so our cost of goods sold, so for the whiskey that's inside of it that we make, and that applies to all three, even the Hideaway. So it comes out to about $9.01, and then 48 cents for federal excise tax, which is a lot better than it used to be. What was it? Yeah, it was about $2.48, I think. No, $2 and it doesn't make a difference. But anyway, so it was over $2, and now it's 48 cents. And then that was a big deal when they made that permanent for not just us, but for distillers all around the country, especially craft distillers, because we're not like the big boys, like Jack Daniel's, Jim Beam, those guys. I mean, they operate.
It hurts a little more.
It really does, yeah. So our profit is, like I said, like just over $10.11, but that pays for the keeping the lights on, things like that.
Wow,
but not a lot, not a big return.
People think you're just like brewing it and you're just selling it for, there's no cost other than the water.
Yeah. Nope. The grains, it costs some, so we get our corn from a local guy, though. He's down Hawley area down there outside of Sweet Home. Great guy. Travis Northern, good people. Then the wheat comes from eastern Alberta and the Alberta, Canada, and the barley comes from eastern Washington. So
how many bottles do you guys sell a year?
Well, year before last we sold 5,050. Last year we only sold about 3,800. and we're on par to do a little bit better this year. But liquor sales in Oregon are down 20%.
We heard that. Yeah, what was Matt saying? The profile of the drinkers changed
A little bit. They do like the fake stuff, the
mocktails.
mocktails.
Yeah.
Well, then, you guys, if you see with this Oregon campaign now, I just saw one of their commercials here, I don't know, a couple months ago. It was like, say no to the drink or something like that.
Say no to the drink?
Yeah, and it was like a dad, and he had his little girl in the cart, and it was
I
like,
have seen that.
hey, he's going to buy a bottle of wine. What's that, Daddy? And it comes, then he puts it back, well, so the Oregon Wine Commission, they like, hey, wait a minute, like, you guys make a lot of money off of us every year, so what's the deal? Anyway, so I think they kind of, I don't know, I haven't seen that commercial.
I haven't seen I saw it, I think, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
I think
it
I saw that
when I was in my teens and 20s, I didn't care what it tastes like, where it came from.
It's a matter of quantity back then.
I didn't venture up past the second shelf from the bottom up, that type of thing.
A little Mad Dog 20.
But as you get older, your taste buds change, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what's this? Instead of like getting blitzed, I'm just going to swish this around and go to bed.
Yeah, just sipping whiskey.
And I tell you, the older you get, the worse the hangovers hurt. Man, when I was in the Army, it's like, boy, I didn't know what it was like going to work without a hangover or something. Especially when I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. It's Fort Cavazos now. There's all kinds of honky tonks down there. So you go out on the night, on town, and have a little bit too much, and have one of your buddies, it was a DD, and get you back to the barracks. And but now that would kill me. Yeah.
Kind of a mean joke. The older you get, the more you can afford it, and the more it hurts.
It is. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, so true.
So Brian, this is what I was talking about earlier. So my daughter and I our older daughter went out to dinner one night. We were trying
Glad
to
you prefaced that. Yeah.
We we're gonna see if Brian wanted to go. Our 2 youngers were with my parents, and he's like, "No, I'm just gonna stay home. I'm gonna eat something at home." So Addie and I went out to dinner. We came back, and Brian's sitting there with a bottle of Blue Line and the cups next to him, and I'm like, "Did you eat dinner?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I ate." I'm like, "You doing okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed." I'm like, "Okay." So he just gets up and he kind of goes to bed, and Addie and I are down there for a little bit. And the next morning, I'm like, "So what'd you have for dinner last night?" And he goes, handful of nuts and a couple glasses of Blue Line." I'm like, I said, "How you feeling this morning?" He's like, I feel a little bit."
Yeah, it was a hard week at work, so
He's like, "I deserve it."
Yeah.
So it was like, so I only had 2 fingers, those 2, pour it up to this one,
He's like, "It's just so smooth." He goes, "Just drinking it just went back really easy."
Well, it is a smooth whiskey, for sure.
If I had the red line, I'd still be up.
You would.
That's true. But yeah, that's it is. It's an easy whiskey to drink, but the thing about distilled spirits is you could have like 10 people, and every one of them has a different one that's their favorite, because that's the thing about whiskey is that there's something for everyone, because there's something. Well, like my favorite of the 3 is the Hideaway. Me and most women like that one. So
Me and most women.
What's the difference with it?
We use the soft white wheat in that, and there's no rye, which is pretty uncommon. Not a lot of whiskeys out there have soft white, with winter wheat. Some people call that too, but but it gives it kind of the wheat gives a little bit of a bite on the front end, but also imparts a kind of a sweeter, buttery note, and which I like that. And when I was telling you, I think I might turn you because that's my cousin. She's a real teetotaler, always has been. Now she'll drink wine, but I always tease her now because I tell her that her husband probably has to keep her Hideaway locked up in his liquor cabinet. but no, that was pretty good. But yeah, by far and away. So almost. Again, my distiller friends tell us we're lucky SOBs because we normally, when you come out with something as a craft distillery, you got to go all over the state and do tastings at liquor stores. Yeah. And the liquor stores love it. And they're like, the liquor stores are awesome too here in Oregon. And so in order to get your product out there, you got to go and you got to campaign it. So with our Blue Line, we are 99 liquor stores and never went to one tasting. Oh. And we're all over the state. A huge section up in the Portland area, and Hillsboro that way. Yeah, well, if anybody needed a drink, I'm sure it's the cops working for Portland Police Bureau. But but yeah, Ukiah, I'm not sure if you're familiar where that's at. Way over northeastern Oregon, not too far from LeGrand, Ontario. So being a former sheriff, I get to go do sheriffy stuff, and then so having the Blue Line. So 2 years ago, I was over in Idaho, up in Coeur d'Alene for the Idaho Sheriff Association. So had guys, Ada County guys from Boise there saying, "Hey man, where's the closest we can get your blue line?" Because I always take some with me, And another friend of mine, we kind of co-host a hospitality suite a little bit, and the blue line's always popular there at that, of course. And what's the closest to the Idaho border? I go, Burns, and they're really the closest. That's like almost 2 hours away, And I says, well, there's a liquor store in Ontario. Just swing in, and here's the product code. And I mean, it was like 3 days later, I started seeing sales out of the Ontario liquor store.
Because awesome. You guys have an online presence too. Like you're able to Oregon, you can't do it, but other states you can get liquor shipped.
So with we just entered into a deal with Backroads Liquor House. And so what happens is they buy it from us and they ship it to Missouri. I don't know what it's about Missouri. I guess because it's just right in the middle of the United States.
Yeah.
And then so from there, it can be ordered online in 40 states.
Okay.
And so that company has a license in those 40 states to be able to send it there.
You mentioned earlier that you're getting some fans from overseas, from like other. Are they able to order and ship over?
Not yet.
They have to come here and take it back.
Yeah. Like I tell my buddies, the ones, especially the guy in Belgium, I said, hey, man, I'm just trying to get into other states here in the United States, because it's tough, because distributors, they don't want to fool, not all of them, but they're most of the big ones especially. They don't want to fool with craft distilleries because we can only ship like a couple pallets at a time. They want a 53-foot semi-trailer full, of that. That makes it more worth their time. So they'd have to go from here to there to get other stuff to be able to ship it. But so that deal with Backroads Liquor House, that's been working great for us. So, and really gets us over the hump because we started that, I think the first shipment that we sent to them that they bought was January 31st. And every distiller out there, wineries, breweries too. So from January 1st till about the end of April, first part of May, when the weather starts getting better, liquor sales are down by a lot. And a lot of that too is that, so on, you might have been there. I know I have been back in my younger day. New Year's parties, and then you wake up the next day, I'm never drinking again. That's my New Year's resolution. And then a few months later, I'm back, kind of thing. So it does start to pick up. But being part of Backroads where they can do that really, we weren't like right out of the chute, but it didn't take long for the word to get out there. And of course, we got our website. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Dave, he is the X guru now. I think he started that like middle of February, and we're like 2,800 followers on there now, and we're like over 5,200 on our Facebook page. Oh yeah, so Joe and Janelle they got Marcotte Distilling over in Philomath. Anyway, just salt of the earth people. Anyway, so he's a good guy. He was in the Marine Corps, but I won't hold that against him. But my dad was a Marine, so he was. Your
followers mostly from Oregon, or are they? As far as your sales go, are they everywhere. Mostly Oregon, or is it like all over the place?
All over the country. Wow. Oh yeah, and then you go on there and you look and you on your, what do they call that? Anyway, off the top of my head, you go and you can see what your where you're at and around there. Every once in a while, you'll see some come up from some other country, that had visited the website. That's kind of cool, seeing that. But but being able to, so Joe and Janelle, they actually opened a couple of years before we did. And when Joe was first talking to us, I was looking like, God, you guys haven't even opened. And you had like 2,300, 3,000 followers, we've been open for like over a year, and we had like, 206. It wasn't that bad, but they didn't have as many as we did. And it continues to increase too. But we had a baked in market, it's a niche market. There's cops all over the country. And that's why, we did the red line for our fireman friends, for the local guys. But, not every little town in the country has a police department, but dang near every little town in the country has a volunteer fire department. Uh-huh. And I was a volunteer. Oh man, don't tell anybody, but I was a volunteer fireman when I was a young man. So, all right. Fellow hose draggers, out in Tangent. Most of those were field fires, which the guys, the Albany fire guys, said, I'd never fight one of them, because standing wheat, that was horrible. But anyway, and that was my original plan. I would want to be a firefighter. But then I found out you had to move to a big city to get paid to do that kind of thing, and there wasn't no way this farm boy was going to do that. So, I decided to be a cop instead.
Next best thing.
Next best thing. But yeah, that.
So who else is asking for their own line?
For their own label for themselves?
Yep. Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I was kind of waiting. George Strait's got Codio. I think it's Codio, isn't it? His tequila out there. I mean, George and I were like brothers from another mother.
Yeah.
I remember.
No green line or anything like that.
Oh, maybe someday. Yeah. So one of the things we want to do, I think you tried the blend where we blend the Blue Line and the Hideaway.
Yeah.
And so that might be a military theme one someday. I was wanting to call it Sergeant's Choice for the law enforcement side because. Any cop will tell you the best when they're like a sheriff like me or a captain or lieutenant, whatever. Your best job in law enforcement is being a sergeant because you're not one of the brass. You're still working with the fellas, but you can still make their life good for them. If you have the right kind of mindset. Sometimes not, but work for a couple of those. But anyway, so it's just I don't know. It's worked out pretty well for us. But so doing that, I know, and we get, dispatchers, they all want their own color, their own, I'm not
sure.
Anyway, but lots of, what was it? Gray, I think was the latest one we heard about, guys that worked in the prisons, I'm like.
The Gray Line, huh?
The Gray Line, yeah. I mean, what was it? That Tom Hanks movie? The Green Mile.
The Green Mile.
Yeah, there you go. Well, anyway, but I don't know. We'll just try to stay in our lane and see. But military theme, you Google it sometime. Military theme whiskeys and bourbons, and you will come up with a bushel basket of different distilleries out there that are making. Yep. But we thought about doing some cross pistol thing. That's what the logo for the military police corps is. That kind of stuff. I don't know. Dave was in the 1st Infantry Division. So when he was in the Army over in Germany, I was in. They sold me a bill of goods. I figured I'd be, driving an air-conditioned patrol car, and I wound up in steel pot, flak vest, protective mask, M203 grenade launcher under my M16, guarding the largest nuclear weapons facility in the free world.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like an important job, but I tell you what, it was boring. I mean, you can watch the grass grow, your first few months there before you get promoted up, then it got more interesting, but got to fly a lot, helicopters, we moved those items, special weapons all over Germany, just to keep the Soviets at bay, so they knew exactly where we were going. But anyway, that was fun. Got to see a lot of Germany from the air. So anyway, but yeah.
Wow, it's a long career, and then you're doing something you love at the end of it.
It is, and we meet great people. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, they're always glad to see us, and they use all 5 fingers when they wave at us. A lot more fun than being a cop, especially being the sheriff. But no, it's been fun, and it's just been the frustrating. I think the only frustrating part. I mean, it's still fun. I mean, but the only frustrating part for us has been it's just hard to get it in other states where actually you can just distribute it because the online sales are great, and we do like right now. Well, it just ended Sunday, but the National Police Week ended Sunday before this last one. And then so everybody was going home from that. And so we said, you know what? And for National Police Week, when you guys get home, here's a 10% discount. And so we put that out there. And so we got a bump in sales from that. But Police Week's a big deal back here in D.C. One of our guys from Concerns of Police Survivors says that probably about 150,000 people go through that thing during that week. So it's a big deal. But yeah, just getting it to so our goal is to make it more affordable because when you pay to have it shipped, so on Backroads though, if your order comes it's $150, then it's free shipping, which is pretty good. Otherwise, it's $31.25, and that's for 1 bottle or for 3 bottles. Because ours is priced that if you buy 4 bottles and both the Blue Line and the Hideaway, you buy 4 bottles, it trips that $150 mark. Shipping's free, so get a couple buddies and you can order it. If you don't want to do it yourself. But there's still people every once in a while you'll see they'll buy 1 or 2 or whatever. But there was another guy, I think, he bought it was a weird number, like 13 bottles. I'm like, okay then.
There's a lot of people that do like the collect them. And they don't open them. They just collect them, they hold on to them, and they I guess sell them.
Those people drive me crazy. They drink more. So I do know that. So a friend of mine, Las Vegas Metro guy, and anyway, so the sheriff and the undersheriff of Clark County Sheriff's Office both wound up with a couple bottles, and they liked it. And so now that sheriff used to be a sheriff. He's a governor of Nevada. So when we get ready to get Nevada, I think maybe we probably have a kind of a smooth pathway.
So you know a guy.
Yeah.
So your big pinch point right now is just distribution.
Getting
it out of Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, so our guy from the OLCC, again, great guy. He said, man, your price point is way too low for this. This is good whiskey. Matter of fact, he was our first customer because he's getting ready to leave because we had to sign the he had to come back with the paperwork because he forgot something and to sign off on our retail permit so we could sell it right there out of our tasting room. And I says, as he's leaving, I says, hey, I says, next time you're in the area, when you're on your day off, swing by and you can try a tasting and maybe take a bottle home. He said, well, I can't do a tasting, but nothing says I can't take a bottle home. So it was funny too, because he wanted to pose with a picture with Dave and I. So he's got the bottle, thumbs up kind of thing. It was pretty fun. He's a great guy, but I don't know where the hell I was going with that story. But anyway, he, gosh, what was that? I don't know. I got talking about James and then I just totally lost my train of thought. Happens all the time.
Distribution.
And,
yeah, it was something about distribution.
Well, it's amazing what kind of people you run into when you open something like this up. And
oh, yeah. Good people.
Fans you make.
I have not had, other than the gal from Houston, haven't had a problem. And then a few, Antifa folks. Other than that, we were good to go.
But Antifa folks. That's it.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
It works itself out.
I worked in the jail for a very long time, and I've been called a lot of things, so it didn't really bother me. They don't know who I am. They don't know me. I don't care, but whatever. But but being able to get the price point down to where a guy can go to a liquor store and buy that and not have to pay the shipping. So back on what James said, $60 is what he thought we should price that as.
Wow.
And I'm like, nope. He goes, really? I go, no. I says, we know our people, and that's cops. Yeah. And our people by nature are cheap bastards. And they will buy that for the label, but they'll keep coming back for what's inside of it. And Dave and I and Andy, when we first started doing our research development, we made a vow to ourselves that we would never put anything in a bottle that we wouldn't drink ourselves. And we've lived up to that because all that, we each have our favorites, but yeah, just living up to that, I think that helps too, because there was a lot of trial and error. It's like, well, this is okay. Then you find out you're using the wrong kind of yeast, and there was a lot of false starts. And then, but we didn't. So we were able to take our time because we didn't owe anybody any money. We did buy the building. We got a great deal on it because it was an old building built in 1930. They sold Massey Ferguson tractors and implements out of there until 73 or 4, and they moved the Tangent where I grew up at. It was a lot of things, but the building was in pretty bad shape, so we just save our money and put our money into an account, and then when we got enough money, then we'd we put the 400 amp service in, or we fix a roof, or did all the whole remodel on the inside. That didn't look anything like that. That building was in horrible shape when we got it.
Yeah, I think you have some pictures up on your website, I think, showing the progression with it.
Yeah, so it was rough, but we did it all ourselves, except for the electric. And even then, we try to help. We get yelled at by our electrician. She was a rough customer. Still a good friend of ours, so great people. But so it took a while. But then again, there's a pretty significant percentage of small businesses that start out that go under within 5 years because they owe everybody something.
Yeah.
And they don't have the clientele to be able to pay the bill, so they go under. We did not want to be that company. And good things come to those who wait, I guess. But
well, you get more control over what you do, and you're not like, well, we got to compromise so we can make money. Right?
Yeah, and we never did that. That's important to us. So these bottles, so they're a little bit expensive, but we get queries from bottle companies in China all the time that want us to buy the bottles from there. But no. But this isn't an American company. They used to be manufactured in, again, Missouri again. But during the pandemic, they got way behind in their sales because they just couldn't get things going. These bottles, actually, the parent company's out of India. And so they came in, got all the orders up and out, and then they shut down the plant. And so I think there's only 3 now glass manufacturing plants in the United States. I could be wrong on that, but that's what the guy that we get our bottles from told me. And so now the bottles, still better. But we were proud of that because on the side of the box it said "Made in the USA," and we were really proud of that. But no, now they come from India. So, which is, they're the
just
same.
Mostly made in the USA.
Mostly made in the US, but but it is what it is, because that's. Really, for us, is the only option. It's still within our price point now. So that bottle, they run around $2, a little bit, $2.24, I think. We can get it from China for about 60 cents. But we're not going to go that way. Yeah, it's like if we thought about it, not for a second, but you look at it, it's like, okay, we're making like $10.11. That's our profit. There really isn't, because that's what keeps the lights on. That's what what we use to be able to to buy the next ton of grain, and that kind of thing, or the next round of bottles, or the tote coming in from the white whiskey from Missouri. So it's just yeah, but yeah, we stand by our principles.
Awesome.
I mean, we're not going to get rich doing that, but
just going to feel good.
But hey, I tell you what, we can lay down and put our head on a pillow.
Yeah,
sleep at night. But anyway, so I don't know. It's just it'd be nice if there was more manufacturing plants in the United States.
So if someone's thinking of starting one, I mean, this is your sign.
I'm telling you, if you're out there, get it going.
They're waiting.
We'll be your first customer. Just keep them under below $2.24. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So where can we find Hideaway? Are you guys going to be at any events or like distillery type?
Got the Sip and Stroll. What do they call that? The Sip and Stumble. Sip and Stroll over in.
That sounds more.
Oh yeah,
sounds more like a map.
I've seen a few go through. Like, no, sorry, I can't give you that. But over in Philomath, that's coming up this summer, and that's a pretty big one for us. We'll be out there. Right next to Marcotte Distilling out there, and there's a little True Value. There's a little strip mall kind of thing there.
Yeah,
so,
I know where that is.
Yeah, so we'll be there. Last year we were right on the highway, and they had the semis coming through, and they'd stop. There's a little place they could grab a bite to eat, and they'd be idling. It's like you could try to explain to people what you're doing, and Dave thought it was funny because I pretty much lost my voice by the end of that day. But and then in November and we've done this now. Now this will be the third year I think that we've done the Corvallis Spirits Festival, and that was that's coming up on Veterans Day. Worthy cause. Lots and lots of people from all over Oregon go to that. Lots of distilleries. Bull Run, they were right next to us last year. And it's funny what you talk about as distillers, the little things that not everybody thinks about. And I said, so how you guys fruit flies situation up there? And everybody has the same problem. Fruit flies is, in the fall, they just go nuts, and anyway, you're always fighting it. And it's not something you want to, see in your bottle floating around, there's a bug in it. Well, what was it, mezcal? Got the worm in it.
As long as you're tequila, you're good.
Yeah, this is Oregon. It's got a fruit fly in there. But just things like that. And then, gosh, what else we got coming up? I don't know. We might be doing the barbecue again this year. That's still up in the air yet. We haven't heard a final on that one, but it got taken over by a different outfit, so we'll see. But that was a fun one last year. Lots of really good food. If you like barbecue, and it was pretty phenomenal, and a lot of nice people out there. But yeah, that's the thing about it is, again, it's a whole different clientele than what Dave and Andy are used to dealing with at the sheriff's office. So like I said, people are glad to see us.
So. You guys are open Monday through...
We're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, kind of like bankers or barbers, I guess. But yeah, so we take... so Dave and I, we switch Saturdays. So like I'll work a Saturday, he'll work the next Saturday kind of thing. So yeah, open 11 to 5. If you give us a call, we'll stick around. It's not like we have anything real important to go to. So, but yeah, then on Saturdays we're open from 10 to 4. But and we... Yeah, just turn off on Crowfoot there off Highway 20. We'll come on in.
Come and do a tasting, maybe take a peek.
Tasting and tours are free.
Awesome.
And we love showing off place. We put a lot of, for a couple of used up old cops, turned out we're pretty decent carpenters,
Yeah.
Yeah, my daddy came in there before he passed away. He goes, man, son, you must have been paying a lot more attention to me growing up than I thought you were. I said, well, Dad, yeah, anything I didn't learn from you, I picked up off of YouTube. He's like, you what? And I'm like, yeah, never mind. We're not going to go that
right. It was all you.
That's right. Totally, Dad. But no, it's been a lot of fun. There's been some... It gets a little frustrating sometimes, but sure. Especially, when we were working on stuff, getting stuff. Now, Dave, he doesn't enjoy carpentry like I do, so I don't mind it. The guy that rented the back half of the building, he'd been there since 2005, actually, and so he had a livestock feed supplement business. So he retired officially January this year. So Andy and I will be doing the renovation on that back piece here before too long.
What's that going to be? Is that just extra storage? Or?
Oh, no, we'll be able to expand out there pretty good. So nice. So we can get more barrels that way. So we just have to have a 1 hour firewall, which is basically 2 sheets of 5/8 inch drywall.
Okay.
And get more barrels and, just be able to spread out a little bit more. Because it's a 4,120 square foot building, but we got like 1,911 on our side. On the other side is 2,100 square feet, so roughly. So it's going to be
that's a huge
expansion.
expansion.
Awesome expansion.
But it is rough over there. It looks like it did when we first moved in out there in the front part. It's like, oh,
but
boy.
you see the potential now.
We
know
do,
what it could be. Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot more, not going to be as fancy because it will be very industrial on that side. So it's just, we're not going to do any we won't have a nice fancy tasting room or anything like that. It's just all for production.
Yeah.
So, and then storage, putting our barrels and our stacking our bottles and stuff. But
It's exciting though.
yeah, you know, having room to roam, you know, room to grow a little bit is pretty good. So, and we already got it. We bought the building. We got a great deal on that. It was 2015 we bought it, and the market hadn't come back, and so that was a good investment there in and of itself. So, but yeah, so it's ours.
Awesome. So, people, if they want to look you up or find your bottles, it's most liquor stores around here? Or?
Yeah, 94. You can go on to our website, and there's a place, there's a link to where you can get our products, and that'll take you to the OLCC's website and just enter. So we have the blue line and the red line out at liquor stores right now. So you just go on there and just do the search on blue line, and it'll come up with two. It'll come up with ours, and it'll come up with Lead Slinger's blue line. Ours is better. Anyway, but and then you can find it, and it'll actually tell you how many bottles they have in stock at your closest liquor store. So yeah,
awesome.
Pretty easy.
Cool.
And then, but yeah, our website, hideawaydistillery.com, Facebook page, Hideaway Distillery, and then we're on X, same thing, Hideaway Distillery, and Instagram, Hideaway Distillery. So yeah, our social media presence, we got a pretty decent footprint. Instagram's really starting to grow. I think we're up at 900 now. So, but
That's awesome.
It's funny too because our the demographics in our when you get to see what your analytics are on our Facebook page, 67% of our followers are female.
Really?
Really?
Oh, because of me, I'm sure.
You're like, I'm a pretty face.
Not even a little bit. Yeah, I'm the show pony. That's it. But no,
you know, those 20-year-olds are going to turn into 4-year-olds, or eventually. So, you know, your demographics just kind of growing.
That's true. Yeah,
They're still their baby demographic.
Yeah, that's been fun though. And like I said, we get to meet a lot of nice people, and like I said, a whole lot more fun than being a county sheriff.
Awesome.
That's awesome. It's a cool
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, thanks for coming out.
Well, you bet. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. And yeah, it's like I've known you guys forever. I just met them.
You're family now, so
That's
you're
right.
good.
I can't wait to dig into a couple of these because I'll even make my own blend. I'll just
Give it
mix
a
all
try.
three, and you just name it after
Where's
me.
a handful of cashews so you can have dinner?
Yeah. Different percentages of each one.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
There you go.
Awesome.
It's a Brian special.
Yeah.
There you go. The Brian special. There you go. So the gal, before we leave, the gal that runs the Chamber of Commerce in Lebanon, Rebecca Grizzle's her name, and she is a hoot, that gal. Anyway, so she makes something, anyway, some kind of I don't know, like a cordial kind of thing, and some special thing she needs to come up with. And I just need a name for it. I says, I got it. She goes, what? I go, the Grizzle Drizzle.
The grizzle
Yeah, because no matter where you go, you're raining on somebody's parade.
You should probably trademark that because that's pretty catchy right there.
Yeah, we were going to do that with ours, but it takes over 18 months to get that done. Yeah, I'm like, I need to start sometime, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's pretty funny. But she's a good gal. Been very helpful with us too. With all she was critical in our marketing when we first started out. You know, because we just kind of had an idea of it, but that's what her background was in marketing. So worked out good for us.
Very cool.
And she worked cheap too. Yeah, so
Even
that was
better.
even better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be looking for Grizzle Drizzle.
Well, there you go. Yeah, coming soon. Yeah. Or not.
Thanks again.
You betcha.
All right.
Thanks again for having me.